Alright, so we're going to start to create our front-end user interface for the to-do application. So let's jump into the code here and let's go into the client folder and then app and then app component.ts. And first thing I want to do is, instead of having a template, we're going to have a template URL linking to another file. Alright, and we're going to call that app.component.html. And in order to use relative paths right there, we have to include module ID and set that to module.id. Alright, so we'll save that and then we'll create that file, app.component.html. And let's just say my app, save it, and looks like we're going to have to restart. And we're going to have to compile it as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up two command lines. So that's the regular Windows command line. I'll also open up a git bash window. And let's go to cd cdc and we're going to go to projects/mean to-dos. And then we want to go into the client folder and just run npm run tsc:\w. Alright, so that will actually, we can let that run because that's going to keep an eye on it every time it compiles. So let's run npm start again over here to run the server, and we should be good. Alright, so now we get the my app. So if I try to edit this, and save. Okay, so now we don't have to go and reload it every time. Alright, so what we want to do now is create our to-dos app. I'm sorry, our to-dos component. So let's create a folder inside the app folder called components. Alright, and then inside there, we're just going to have the one to-dos component, so I'm not going to give it its own folder. We're just going to create the to-dos component.ts, and let's also create the HTML file, and then we'll just copy what we have in the app component, bring that over, change that to to-dos, change this and this. Alright, so now what we need to do is go to our app component ts, and we need to import that component. So that's going to be from ./component/todos.component, and then we need to add that as a directive. Okay, so that's going to go right here, to-dos component. Alright, and then we'll go ahead and save that. And then in our app component HTML, we're just going to put in to-dos, save that, and then let's go to the to-dos HTML file, and let's just say my to-dos and save. And there we go. So we know that that component is now showing. So let's go ahead and start to build the UI. We're going to go to getbootstrap.com and go to getting started, and then examples, and then this starter template. Do a Control U, we'll grab a nav bar, and let's paste that in here. We'll change the project name to mean to-dos. And let's get rid of this navbar fixed top. And let's see what else. We don't need any of these links, these menu items. We can get rid of those. And then down here under the nav, let's put a div with the class of container. So let's say div class row, and then we'll do div class call md 8, so 8 column div, but I want to push it over 2 columns, so we're going to do call md offset -2. Right, and that's where the to-dos component is going to go. Alright, so let's save that. Okay, so now we have our nav bar. Oh, you know what? This should all go in the, not in this file, this should go in the app component HTML. Okay, so that should go in this right here. There we go. Alright, so now we have the to-dos component right here. So next thing we'll do is go to our to-dos HTML, where we just were, and I'm going to start to work on this. So let's create a div and give this a class, and this is going to be the form. So we're going to give this a class of add to do form, and also text center. Alright, and let's put an H1 in here. We'll say add to do, and then we're going to put a div with the class of form group. Okay, and let's put an input, give it a class of form control, and input LG, which is a bootstrap class. We're going to give it a placeholder of add to do, and let's give it an autofocus attribute, and also we're going to be using forms for Angular 2, so we want to add this ID here. We're going to say to do text. Alright, so that's the input, and then we'll have a line break and then a button. Okay, button will have a class of BTN and BTN primary, and let's also do BTN block. Alright, and the button will just say create. Alright, let's save that. Okay, so there's our form. Looks good. And then down here, this will be the to-do list. So let's create a div here, give it a class of to-do list. Alright, and let's, what I'm going to do is put a div here. It's going to be an alert. And if there's no to-dos, we're going to have this display. Now, since we don't have any logic yet, it's just going to always display, but we'll fix that later on. Alright, so let's say class alert, and let's do alert info, and I want it in the center, so text center. Alright, and now what we'll do, actually, no, we can actually hide this using the hidden attribute here. If we say hidden and then set that to to-dos dot length. Okay, so if we say to-dos dot length is greater than 0, that should work. And then we'll say h3 no to-dos. Alright, so it should show now because obviously we don't, the to-dos don't exist. So let's take a look at that. Alright. And let's see what else. So we want a list here and we want to have a checkbox. So let's create, let's see, we'll have 2 columns. We'll have div class, let's say call md1. Alright, and then we'll have another column here, which will be, let's say 7, and then we'll have another one which will be 4. Okay, so the idea here is to have the checkbox here, the actual to-do text here, and then the buttons here. So we'll have an edit and a delete button here. Alright, so let's add the checkbox. We'll say input type equals checkbox. And let's see, this will just be some to do. And then this will put a div here. Actually, no, let's use that div. We'll use this div and just give it a class of btns for buttons. Alright, and then we'll have an input type will be button, class will be btn danger, and let's do pull right. Okay, and then the value itself will be delete. And then I'm just going to copy that. And then this one is going to be the edit. Okay, we'll change it from btn danger to btn default. Okay, let's save that, see what it looks like. And yeah, that looks good. Now don't worry about the errors down here. It's just because we have this to-dos length and to-dos doesn't exist yet. Alright, so don't worry about that. So I think that's going to do it for now. In the next video, we're going to start to build a service so that we can fetch our to-dos from our API that we created, and then ultimately we'll loop through them here and have them display. Okay, so we'll get into that in the next video.